is back. Before we get into things, do us a quick favor. Like the video, throw a sub to the channel if you haven't. This week, we got UFC Vegas 48. It was originally set to be Rafael Fiziev versus RDA. That gets pushed back 2 weeks to co-headline 272. Now we got a 5-rounder in the light heavyweight division between Johnny Walker and Jamahal Hill. You know, I said this about the last Johnny Walker fight. I don't think this one's probably going to see the full 5 rounds. I know that Johnny Walker and Santos fight was kind of like the start of those 5 or 6 main events in a row that all saw the judges when they weren't supposed to. But I do think we see a finish here in this one. From top to bottom, man, the card's kind of weak if I'm being honest. But there are some sneaky good spots and some sneaky good fighters. You know, we got the Parker Porter, in my opinion, and maybe one of his easiest, most winnable fights since being in the UFC. David Onama returning after a fantastic debut, even though he lost. We got our girl Jessie Jess here. And then who can't be excited for Buckley and Alhassan? You know, I'm expecting them two to throw down. Super happy they kept that one together. So it's our job, man, to find some spots to make some money on this card here. We're going to do a quick recap of last week. I finally got you in the hat. Wasn't the best week for you? Ready to bounce back?
Yeah, definitely had a big swing right off the bat. That Sergey Morozov fight, that was a 7.5 unit swing for my night, and kind of
difference in positive or
difference in being positive and negative. And you know, the rest of the night, I had a couple of hits here and there. The Tuivasa TKO kind of lessened the blow, but yeah, it wasn't a great night for me. I ended up minus 6.31 units. But on the other side, if you took Preston's card, you definitely came out positive.
Yeah, I finished at 5.41 profit there. Swept my straight bets there. My biggest one was my O'Neal and Adesanya parlays. Both of them went to decision a little bit closer than I wanted them to be, but hey, I'll take the cash. And then Carlos Olberg, I laid 2.5 units on his money line at minus 200. I was super confident. But hey, I thought he was going to get the finish, but it still really wasn't a sweat for me at all. And I was your 5-unit, Morozov parlay from sweeping my night, so it could have even been sweeter, man. But short memory, we got new fights this week, and let's get into these, man.
Our first fight of the night starts out in the bantamweight division, where we see Jesse Strader taking on Chad Anheliger. The amount of confidence from the books is kind of surprising to me in Anheliger. He is making his debut, and at 35 years old, there are a couple of red flags that I don't like seeing. He does get into these kind of risky exchanges on the feet, although I'll give it to him. His distance management is pretty good, but he kind of has a boxing style defense that doesn't necessarily work when you're using these 4-ounce gloves. He has the edge in cardio, which is why I'm picking him for this fight, but I think it's going to be a whole lot closer than these odds suggest. Strader, he throws some nasty combos, and I do think that this will probably stay on the feet. So as far as a knockout happening, I think that there is a possibility Strader lands a lucky shot. But I am going to lean towards Anheliger here. Just cardio is my biggest.
Yeah, man, I can't help, leaning with the big favorite here, but the odds are something I just can't get down with. He's, 35, almost 36 years old, and at one time, he was almost done with his UFC career. There was 2 years in between that Brady Heisted fight and his, Contender Series debut. And it went, Jesse Strader up against Montel Jackson. You just, you don't get to see anything. And I think that's why, you're seeing this price tag here. I just can't get down with it, man. And I have taken a small shot on Jesse Strader. I'm not necessarily confident that it's going to cash. I'm more or less telling you, hey, don't go out there and parlay this 35-year-old Chad, making his UFC debut at a minus 300 price tag here. On the tape index, you got to pay to watch some of his fights. There's not even a whole lot out there on him, man. On the Contender Series, they were talking about he fights with his brothers in his corners, not even MMA guys. He's not getting, proper, I guess knowledge, stuff in the corners, adjustments that he can make in the fight. And then he looked good in the scrambles in that fight. He had a better gas tank than his opponent, but man, other than that, you're watching tape from like 3 years ago and stuff like that, and so I just can't parlay this guy. Where Strader, I know he's going to fight for my money, man. In the Montel fight, he came forward chucking leg kicks early. He has that Davy Grant combination where he'll swing to the body first before he comes over top of the head. I mean, he dropped Marcelo Rojo before getting finished. He's down to getting that type of war, and I think he's going to fight for my plus 230 price tag I got. So I'm happy taking a dog shot right out the gates on Jesse Strader. But man, I won't be shocked if Chad absolutely, takes this one with ease.
You mentioned the Brady Highstand fight. I would be curious to see if Brady hadn't gone on the run that he did in Tough, if that would have affected this line any. I think that he's getting a lot of credit for beating Brady, even though Brady was 19 years old at the time.
And a gasser, man.
Yeah, and so like if he didn't have that name, it would have been just another 4-0 fighter that he's beating on the regional scene. And he's coming off of a split and a UFC debut that you just can't justify these odds.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I can't justify it either. Next up in the women's strawweight division, we see Diana Belbita, who's 14-6, taking on Gloria De Paula, who's 5-4. Bet Online did open Diana Belbita as a -260, so it is something to keep note here. And the public has since steamed it to basically a pick'em in a low-level women's MMA fight. I 100% get it, but I do think Belbita is the rightful favorite, and the fact that I can get her at -110, the degenerate in me has came out, and I've done a 1-unit shot here on Belbita. She gets a lot of flack for the first 2 performances. Her wrestling got exposed against Molly McCann, and then she drops Jojua and goes into her guard, giving Jojua the only option, to only chance to win. So, her fight IQ is what she always gets a lack on, and then, she comes out, looks great against Hannah Goldie until pretty much the last couple, last minute of the fight where she got taken down. But, man, I think Diana Belbita is a bit bigger. I think she's a bit cleaner of a striker. She's got 20 pro fights, even though it is not the highest level of competition. She's got double the fights of Gloria De Paula here, and I'm going to take Diana Belbita, probably 29-28 decision, man.
Yeah, so you nailed it. Your DGen came out a little bit, man. Like you said, both these girls have kind of had shaky careers up to this point, and they're probably fighting for their jobs right now. Loser goes home. You talked about Belbita being a little bit longer, but realistically, I think they're going to look pretty similar whenever they face off. I'm going to give the grappling, wrestling, strength advantage to Gloria. I think she's going to try and get this fight to the ground. You talked about the line movement already, and yeah, that should play a little bit of a factor, but we know those Bet Online openers kind of real shaky. I'm with you that I think Belbita has more paths to victory here, but she has too many armbar from guard losses for me to trust her at all. So I am going to lay off, but I'm not upset with you taking a shot on Belbita.
I don't necessarily think Gloria will have like an all-out wrestling advantage, but I could see Gloria honestly working off of her back some and like you said, pulling some stupid armbar or something. That happens all the time in women's MMA. Definitely degenerate in me, but yeah, I'm gonna side with Diana Belbita.
Our next fight takes place in the featherweight division, where we see Chaz Skelly taking on Mark Striegl. I remember taking a degen stab on Striegl when he made his debut against Saeed, and looked like a big goofball right after that fight, man. Striegl, he is a decent fighter when you watch his tape, and he has plenty of ways to finish the fight once it gets to the mat. But I don't think that he's really been tested other than, flyweight Kai Kara France. But when you look at Chaz Skelly, he's been one of my favorites, so I do have a little bit of bias going into this, but he's able to fight into his 30s now. He's kind of like the ultimate journeyman, where he'll expose those holes in anybody's game, and will test anybody's will to win. He definitely isn't the most athletically gifted, but he has like beautiful wrestling skills, and he's got that dog in him. You know what I'm saying? I think that he'll be the much bigger guy, having a 3-inch height and reach advantage on Striegl, and he'll probably use that size over 3 rounds to just wear him down. I don't love the injury Skelly's coming off of, but I'm going to take him here.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. It's been a rough 2 years for Skelly. He's 36 years old. You talked about the injuries he's dealing with, and then when he finally gets healthy, he makes his walk to the cage, and Jamal Emmers pulls out on him when he's standing there in the cage. He just bad run of luck here lately. But yeah, I'm with you, man. I like Skelly in this spot. He's an absolute grinder. He goes for that wrestling background. He's got super good jiu-jitsu to back it up once he gets you there. Really good series of front chokes. He's got the anaconda, the Dars finishes. I think 5 of his 7 UFC wins are by submission. And then last time out, we got to see him go the full 15 minutes at his age. Ton of top control. And he's always one that's a grapple-first mindset, sticking to the game plan. I don't think nothing's going to change here on this year, 2-year layoff. I think I'm expecting the same thing. Chaz Skelly is not someone to come out here and strike with anybody. He's going to impose his will on Mark Striegl. And you've seen Striegl, who's been submitted in 2 of his 3 losses. You saw maybe a suspect chin. I don't know. Maybe, cut to bantamweight when he got knocked out by Saeed. But it was not the cleanest of punches that sent him wobbling. So I do think Skelly should be the significant favorite here. Striegl is approaching 2-year layoff himself, and he's 33, and like he's no spring chicken. And throughout his career, man, the guy's been super, super inconsistent with performances since 2013. 2015 and 2017 were the only time he had more than one fight. So he's basically fighting just one time a year for the last, 10 years, basically. He is at the MMA lab now, which is nice to see. He's moved to, a camp. And it only looks like it's been for like the past 3 or 4 weeks, man. So I don't really know how much, in 3 or 4 weeks a new camp's really going to do for you. Maybe a little bit better of a gas tank. But, yeah, I'm with Skelly. I think he's going to grind him out here. I think he could potentially get that late finish. But am I eager to lay north of -200 on a 36-year-old approaching 2 years off with injuries? Absolutely not, man.
Yes, I am.
Next up in the women's bantamweight division, we see Jessica Rose Clark, who's 11-6, taking on Stephani Egger, who's 6-2. Short and sweet breakdown from me, honestly, but I think it's going to be a very accurate one and a fight that I'm actually looking to bet here. I think Jessie Jess is the clear favorite. I really do. I think I give her the edge on the feet, even though a lot of her fights don't take place there. I think she's got a massive advantage in the wrestling here, man. You see her working with DC, Duran Win all the time. Splits time at Combat Sports Academy, Team Alpha Male. She's extremely active on Instagram, so you get a ton of looks at what kind of shape she's in, what kind of work she's getting in. And, man, she's doing the damn thing right now. She looks like she's constantly putting in the work. While Egger, I don't think she's seeing the same looks over there at Buddy Gym where she's training out of. She does have that judo background, but, man, I think she gets her back stuck up on the fence. Jessie Jess is going to be able to hold her there, maintain her there. And she was grinded out by a flyweight, and Tracy Cortez gave up over 10 minutes of control time. Jessie Jess is a better wrestler, much stronger than Tracy Cortez. So, stylistically, I love this fight for Jessie Jess.
Yeah, we see this fight the same way. I'm a big do not bet on Stephani Egger. When she made her debut, she made us look like doofuses, man. Like, we kind of were eating up those accolades whenever we were looking at what Stephani Egger was bringing to the table, and it just did not show out on the mat. Like you said, she is a judoku specialist, so the clinch situation with Jessie Jess and her, that's where my only worry is. If she does wind up on top, I don't love Jessica Rose Clark off of her back, but she is a little monster, and she will grind you out. I think that she does have a clear, easy path to victory. Like you said, she'll probably wind up on top in most of these exchanges. So, yes, I'm with you on betting Jessica Rose Clark. I have about as much confidence in her as I do Chaz Skelly from the last fight.
Good stuff. I don't know how Clark's going to get it done. I could see potential late finish, more leaning toward the decision. But I just thought it should be a little bit mature. I took her -190 price tag here because I don't know if a finish is going to be on the table here or not.
That's fair. Our next fight takes place in the featherweight division where we see David Onama taking on Gabriel Benitez. Man, I think I see the mush bet of the week, man. David Onama has to be the most popular bet of the card so far. And I know a lot of people are just judging off of that last fight with Mason Jones. Yeah, he looked great on short notice. I got to give him that. He is training out of Gloria MMA with James Krause, so no wonder they take good short notice fights. They know what fights match up well, and he matched up well with Mason Jones. I think that Gabriel Benitez is kind of getting looked over here, and not rightfully so. He has competed in the UFC for quite a while now. He has incredible leg kicks, and he's just had a tough run in these last 5 fights. But I do think that he's going to look a little bit better than what these odds are suggesting. I'm going to lay off of Onama. Yeah, I think that Onama should edge this out. But with the price that everybody's willing to lay on him, I think that Gabriel's kind of being overlooked. I'm just going to lay off of this fight.
And I see where you're coming from, man. When I first got into it, I was like, damn, man, a whole lot of love for a guy who lost his last fight, you know. But when I do watch it, it was rather impressive for a young guy to risk that undefeated record, going up a weight class, taking on somebody, and Mason Jones, man, they got in a dogfight, man. And if Mason Jones did not have that, judo, jiu-jitsu black belt in his back pocket, it could have swung more toward David Onama's favor. And I think that's why I think I am going to go with him here. With Benitez, though, coached by Javier Mendez at AKA, man, he's been doing his camps there forever. But lately, yeah, he's lost 3 of his last 4 with his only win coming over Justin James, and coming down to featherweight, that weight cut is not easy for him. You saw Jonathan Pearce not take the fight with him when he botched his weight cut and came in super heavy. And so it does look like it gets rough on him, man. He was dropped last time out in round 1 against Billy Q. Looked super defeated coming off the stool in round 2. Was eventually finished in round 3. But, man, he's a nasty southpaw. Onama's an orthodox. That body's going to be open for all those kicks that you got to talk about Mowgli going to be throwing. But the guys' careers, I do think, are in 2 different points. Onama at 27, really just kind of, getting his feet wet and getting started, where Benitez, he's changing weight classes and things like that. I think he's on his way out. And I think that's why I'm willing to roll the dice here with Onama. I talked about Mason Jones having that wrestling background and stuff to go to. Mowgli is literally in 11 fights landed 1 takedown, and he's got a 50% takedown accuracy, which means in 11 fights he shot twice. And if he's not willing to wrestle here and he's willing to duke it out on the feet with David Onama, man, I saw David Onama duke it out with some guy that is a dog, and I think David Onama's going to be able to snipe him with that right hand and put him down. I'm going to go with the taller, younger, faster guy, and I want to be happy cashing with all of Twitter this week, so I have locked in a little bet with him. I feel missed out on Kyler Phillips sub prop plus 550 last week. Everybody and their mama was hitting it. I laid off of it, even though Marcelo Rojo had been submitted 5-6 times, and sure enough, didn't get to cash a 550 prop with everyone. So I'm going to roll with David Onama here. I like him, but understandable. Moving on to the men's bantamweight division, where we see a short notice fight put together between Mario Bautista, who's 8-2, and Jay Perrin, who is 10-4. It was supposed to be originally Khalid Taha here, but Jay Perrin stepping in on about a week's notice. He is currently the CES bantamweight champion there. I think odds just got released this morning. You got Mario Bautista like minus 370, 270,
270,
minus 270. You got to rock with Mario Bautista. Looking through Jay Perrin stuff yesterday, I didn't really see stuff that I liked the best. I think you're looking at a play on Bautista maybe inside the distance.
Yeah, man, I really like Bautista here, and I was super hyped to play him against Khalid Taha at near pick'ems. But now at 3-1, I do have to kind of find some different ways to look at him, and that inside the distance is really something I'm ready for the props to come out on. I think Bautista's kind of been lumped in with these mid-tier 135ers, but when he's on, he's on, and I think that he is like a fringe top 15 guy.
Looked good against Trevin Jones.
He really did, and that loss specifically is one that's aged well. You know, Trevin Jones is a damn good fighter, and I won't be fading him anytime soon, Herron, also known as the Can Crusher on the regional scene, he has been able to put together back-to-back wins to get his call up on short notice. And to his credit, his last 5 opponents have been much better than the 0-1 fighters that he built his resume on. But man, I think Bautista obliterates him here. Taking a short notice against somebody like Mario just isn't a good idea in my opinion. Now, I know he's getting his step up to the UFC and he'll get a fight after this, but I think this is a spot where we have to hammer the Bautista inside the distance and kind of expect the worst for Jay Herron coming in here with a really tough fight.
I like it, and I'll probably be telling you on it.
Our next fight takes place in the featherweight division, where we see Jonathan Pearce taking on the UFC newcomer Christian Rodriguez. Pearce is another Tennessee boy.
Yes, sir. Back-to-back weeks.
Yes, that is actually making a splash in the UFC, man. He's training out of Fight Ready now, and he's strung together back-to-back finishes to turn and now it's his turn to welcome this newcomer into the UFC like he was with Joe Lozon. When you look at Christian Rodriguez, from what I've seen, he's actually pretty good, man. Like, he's training at a Rufus Sport MMA. He's got a great, which is a great career move for him. And on these regional scene fights, he's getting these finishes, which is nice to see. But I do have questions about the levels of competition that he's faced. Another thing that worries me is the size of Rodriguez here. Rodriguez is a primary bantamweight, pushing 5'7", and Pearce is a massive featherweight, man. He's 6 foot tall. And with the style that he's been bringing to the table in his last 2 fights, I think that this will be another easy inside the distance cash for me. I'm all over Pearce here.
I'm all over Pearce as well, man. You hit almost all the points I want to hit on as well. Pearce is supposed to take on Austin Lingo here. Much harder fight, a fight that I think I was ready to back Pearce in against there as well. The guys did nothing but really impress me. Great finish over Jacob Rosales on the Contender Series. They given Jacob Rosales another shot. They liked him so much. And you talked about Joe Lozon, man. He went up up to 55 in Boston against Joe Lozon. I mean,
as a favorite.
You're right. It's like he did get twisted up like a pretzel, but that's a tough one to make your debut in. But man, like you said, since I've been so impressed, absolutely dog walked Kai Kamaka and Omar Morales, man. I mean, round 2 finishes just both exhaust them with his pressure and breaks them, and that's a style I can watch all day. With Christian, he did beat up Tracy Cortez's little brother there on the Contender Series, but man, I'm not all that impressed with him, if I'm being honest with you. I look at who he's beaten in all those components. 37-49 record, the last one being a 19-36 fighter. It's like, good God, man. This guy's not on Jonathan Pearce's level. He's so small, and he's missing weight on the Contender Series. He's fighting at 150 pounds last month in a catchweight fight. The scales are going to be trouble for this dude. I mentioned Jonathan Pearce not taking the fight with Mowgli when he missed. Mm-hmm. I think he's still going to take this one, even if this guy comes in and misses. I think he knows it's a mismatch, and I think he knows that cardio is just going to break him in that second or third round. I'm big on Jonathan Pearce here too.
Christian Rodriguez has been to decision 4 times in his career, and he's lost 2 of them. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's going to be any different here. Like you said, the pressure that Pearce brings will break him in those later rounds. So, I think we're both going to look to cash some Pearce inside the distance.
I think he submitted Omar Morales, if I'm not mistaken, but I do think he just
ground and
pounded Kai Kamaka, so I think you should just take inside the distance here and not be picky.
Couldn't agree more.
Kicking off the main card with an absolute fucking banger, man. I'm so glad this fight stayed together. Joaquin Buckley, 13-4, taking on Abdul Razak Alhassan, 11-4. Man, Buckley, just known for his viral knockout, and I'll always mention it. My wife drugged me to a damn wedding that night, and I get a text from Tyler that says, Impa got knocked the fuck out. I had no idea what I was about to get on Twitter to witness. Holy fuck, man. And, follows it up with just another finish over Jordan Wright. Before all that, hype came to a screeching halt here, man. And when you really look at who Buckley's beaten, Jordan Wright's like the only one left in the UFC, I think. I do want to mention he shot for 6 takedowns against Antonio Arroyo. He had saw where Muniz, Wynn had success, and he tried to replicate it. I won't be shocked if he tries to wrestle a little bit after he saw Malkoun have such success with it. Not saying he's going to have the same success, but it is something to note there. With Alhassan, doesn't get any more perfect than his last outing, man. 1 punch, one kick, 1 shot landed in a knockout. I think Abdul got his confidence back. I think we could see the Abdul Razak Alhassan of old. So give him to me, man, as the dog.
Yeah, so, no wonder why they put this to open up the card, man. This is probably going to end in some type of highlight reel KO. Mm-hmm. You talked about Buckley's ability to kind of switch up his game plan to get these wins. That is something that even more so solidifies what I'm thinking. And I do think that Buckley's the side here. He's a decade younger, which is something that I think we got to bring up. I think he's definitely the faster of the two, and he's more willing to throw in combination on the feet. I will give the power advantage to Alhassan. He's given me some of the scariest KOs, and I was big on Alhassan before the whole rape allegation thing where he sat out a little more than I would have liked him to. It is kind of weird. MMA math says that Alhassan should win here because of the DiChirico head kick knockout.
Or does it come full circle and then Buckley wins by head kick and they all three have head kicked each other?
That would be amazing. I'd love to see that. I am going to take Buckley here. Like I said, I think he's just a little bit sharper on the feet. I think he's faster. He'll probably beat Alhassan to the punch, but both guys are liable to knock each other out. Maybe fight ends by TKO would be the best way I could play this. But minus 145, which I think is still like out there for Buckley, is something that I'm looking at.
So again, I got to think that Alhassan with his knockout power at plus money is a great bet. We've seen Buckley knocked out 3 times already in his career. You now seen Abdul kind of get that confidence back. Has a couple fights now, 185. He's training in Denver at a team elevation. He's working on that cardio that he knows it's a problem. And, the Jacob Malkoun loss looked bad, but now it really doesn't after he went out there and did it to 6'1" AJ Dobson again last week. So I don't know if I'm going to play Alhassan even at his price tag of plus 125 because he's got a fucking 11 wins by first round knockout. And so DraftKings was hanging Alhassan in round 1 at plus 400, so I did drop a quarter of a unit there. That's how I think I'm going to play this fight.
Our next fight takes place in the lightweight division, where we see Jim Miller welcoming the UFC newcomer Nikolas Motta. Damn, Motta is a beast, dude. Unlike a lot of the talent that we see coming off of the Contender Series, I think Motta has a real potential to make a big splash in the UFC. Judging by his tape, it looks like he has really good takedown defense, an incredible ability to create scrambles that he ends up on top of, and he has some devastating KO power in his hands. I think that if he can, survive the early onslaught that Jim Miller's going to give him, the only way that he's been able to win in the past half decade, I think that he most likely will get a finish here, and I'm all in on Motta. I'm going to try and figure out a way to play him. I'm not really sure.
If you want to lay minus 180 on him?
No, I'm not really sure.
You could have got plus 100 last time or something they were booked at.
No, I do not. So that's kind of what's keeping me off of it. But I do like Motta here, Contender Series debutant.
So I'm kind of torn on the sides here, man. With Jim Miller, he's adding to his record here. Just surpassing Cowboy, I believe, again, adding to that record for most UFC appearances. And he's drawing another one of these young prospects that he's time and time again proven to me that he can turn back. He really much has been first round or bust. I know he got the win over Eric Gonzalez, but it was 14 seconds into round 2, so he didn't show me much of a gas tank outside of round 2. And then I also don't think Eric Gonzalez is good whatsoever. I talked about Jim Miller being as the minus 120 favorite the first time it was around, and now Motta's the minus 180 favorites. I don't know what has changed. Maybe it's just more time people have dug in and realized how legit Motta is. He's going to bring the fight. I'll give him that, man. I've seen him TKO'd by lesser fighters than Jim Miller. I've seen him submitted by lesser fighters than Jim Miller. And in his most notable win in Joe Selecki, he did spend the better part of 3 rounds before getting that knockout on his back. So while I like the sense of urgency to go out there and get that finish when he needed it, and he's got that devastating power, I don't know if I can lay minus 180 on him either. How I've looked to play this fight doesn't go the distance. I took it at minus 167, I think, on DraftKings. I think both of them have a ton of finishing potential. I think Jim Miller, if he has success, he gets him down to the mat and finishes him. And if Motta gets out of that round 1, I think the finish upside for him goes through the roof.
And just more on the Motta, he's coming in 2 wins in a row by decision. That's what I like to see against Jim Miller here. Yeah. I'm with you. It's surviving that early onslaught and then coming out on top later in the rounds.
So is your pick Motta?
My pick is Motta for sure. Yeah.
Just to be cool, I'll disagree with you. I'll take the dog and the veteran and Jim Miller. Okay. Moving on to the lone set of big boys on the card, we got Parker Porter, who is 12-6, taking on Alan Baudot, who is 8-2. When you break down a Parker Porter fight, you always got to note that in 2008, this man stood across from the GOAT of fighting, in John Jones, and had a bad showing there. Bad showing against Chris Daukaus in his short notice debut. But man, the Parker Porter that has shown up of late, a much more focused one, a much more in shape one, and one that I know can go the full 15 at a very good pace. And I think he only gets stronger as it goes on. Super fast leg kicks, strong. The guy will crash forward and hold you against the fence. And I'm big on Parker Porter here, man. I think Alan Baudot is honestly complete trash. I know you can't draw much from losing to Tom Aspinall. He didn't really get to show any of his skills, but I think he's Gon's Artem Lobov. I think he's just Gon's punching bag, and I haven't seen him progress after training with one of the best in the world. He really should be fucking 8-4 right now and has been knocked out in 4 of his last 5 fights. He's worse than Parisian. He's worse than Sherman. Give me Parker Porter.
Yeah, man. Parker Porter, maybe the only guy with a 52-inch waist that can go 15 minutes, but I do like him, man. He's our boy, and I know personally I've bet on him in all 3 of his UFC bouts.
Twice as a dog
and cashed twice, so he's made me some money. And but seeing him at minus 250 does just seem flat out wrong. It seems like the books have finally caught up, and he's not just an absolute can, even though his body would tell you otherwise. You look at his opponent, Allen, and he's a light heavyweight with an eating problem, man. Should not be in the heavyweight division. And you talked about his losses. The record doesn't show it, man. That dude gets starched in every single one of his fucking fights.
He just covers up quitting the last one, in my opinion.
I don't want to just come in here and absolutely shit on Baudot. So I will slip into the fact that he can surprise his opponents with some like really wild, dangerous strikes, some spinning back fists, and catch you off guard.
He's fast since he was a light heavyweight.
Yeah. I would say he does definitely have the speed advantage, which is what I was about to bring up. Porter's speed does worry me the most. I think that he can easily be countered on his entries by a high-level striker. We saw that with Chris Daukaus. And so if he does get caught with a spinning back fist from Baudot, I'm not going to be entirely surprised here. I'm looking to play the fight ends by KO as opposed to trying to lay 2.5 to 1 on Porter, even though he is the side here. And the fact that he can go a full 15 minutes is something that I love. But I don't think Baudot would ever go full 15 minutes, win or lose. So I'm going to look for fight ends by TKO. If Porter locks up a submission, whatever, man.
Yeah, I like Porter in rounds 2 or 3 by TKO. You saw him, Baudot have a good round 1 against Nascimento, and then everything just fell off come round 2. It was mouth breathing, and like I said, in my opinion, he covered up. He didn't even really get knocked out. I don't like Alan Baudot, and Parker Porter has covered those 2 dog prize tags in his fights with Parisian and Sherman. So, and now I think again he's getting a favorable matchup. So, I think the minus 250 might be justified, man, and I hope he proves it on Saturday.
Our next fight takes place in the middleweight division where we see Kyle Daukaus taking on Jamie Pickett. Jamie Pickett, he's been an all-time fade for me since he entered the UFC, man. He's got an excellent frame, like a Phil Davis frame, but he does an awful job of utilizing that size. The majority of his fights take place with his back against the cage, and he's looking to land counters, doesn't have a ton of output, and he's usually defending takedowns off of the smaller opponents. In this fight, he does not have a smaller opponent standing across from him. Daukaus is a big guy for the division, has kind of proven to be that mid-tier himself, though. We've seen him bested 2 times now against Brendan Allen and Phil Hawes. The Phil Hawes one, not aging like it should be,
Right.
Daukaus is willing to engage in some 50-50 exchanges, which is where I kind of see Jamie Pickett possibly having some success. But if this does get to the mat, I think the BJJ black belt of Daukaus will shine, and he'll probably end up getting a finish on the mat. Pickett only has 68% takedown defense, so it will probably end up there. My pick is Daukaus.
Yeah, man, my pick is Daukaus too. I'm pretty high on Daukaus in this spot, and I'd start off by saying, why the fuck is this the co-main event? Both of these guys, clinch fuck a lot of their opponents, and 75% of the time go to decision, So I was very curious as to why they threw this when they're in the co-main event spot. Daukaus, man, just been itching to get back in. Hasn't had the best of luck lately. They lost the decision to Phil Hawes, and then it does kind of look bad since Phil Hawes has now been KO'd, but Phil Hawes has like all the goods you could kind of want in a fighter: a D1 wrestling background, athletic, and just.
I'm a Phil Hawes hater,
and he just can't take a chin, or he just can't take a punch, And then the clash of heads with Kevin Holland, deemed a no contest. Different opinion kind of for me. It's like for me, it's just they clash heads in the cage. It just. It just happened to not affect Kyle the same way it did Kevin Holland in a fight. I think that's just, and it led to the finish. So I kind of get it, but it is what it is. Wish they would have continued to try to match that fight up. I think that's a good one. I think Kyle, like you said, has the frame to match Pickett. I think he's comfortable in the clinch fighting, the cage control type of fight that Pickett, typically is in. And I really favor Kyle Daukaus if this fight hits the mat with Pickett. It's a short notice fight. He just beat Joseph Holmes, who had no gas tank after like 4 minutes, so you really couldn't take much away from him. Jamie still couldn't get him out of there. I've seen him held on the cage by Stephani. I've seen him out wrestled by an exhausted Punahele on Contender Series, and in his first Contender Series, I saw Charles Byrd run right through him and arm triangle him. So I'm big on Kyle Daukaus, especially if this hits the mat. Pickett, to me, I know he's been a fade for you. He's just one of those guys for me he's so raw. He's got all the physical attributes around him that maybe if he got a good coaching and a good team, went to a good gym, maybe he could improve. But as of right now, yeah, man, I'm completely down to fade him with Kyle Daukaus. And in our main event of the evening, light heavyweight division, man, we've got Johnny Walker, who's 18-6, taking on Jamal Sweet Dreams Hill, who is 9-1. And I don't know what the fuck's gonna happen in this fight. You got Walker, who at once was considered the one to beat John Jones. He came in with just 3 massive knockouts. He's got a massive frame. He moves so well, explosive, unorthodox.
He was the Yuri Prozaknia of 2018.
You're right. And then, man, he gets knocked out by Corey Anderson, and I don't know what happens. He's changed camps like 4 different times now, and he looked awful in the fight with a very washed-up Santos, who I don't think will ever look the same after both of those knee surgeries. With Jamahal Hill, we've tried to fade him, and, for me it was a lesson last time. The guy has very good boxing. He's very accurate, and at that weight class, you don't have to have all the power in the world. You're a big guy, and if you land, those guys are going to go down. I've seen him have to defend a ton of takedowns in a fight and still put up over 200 strikes. I'm going to go with Jamahal Hill, but I can't lay this price tag, man. How about yourself?
So this one's a relatively easy one to cap for me. Neither fighter have shown that this is going to take place anywhere other than on the feet. When it comes to that footwork, the movement, and athleticism, I definitely give the edge to Walker. And especially, I think that he learned that with his switch to SBG Ireland, that he maybe started being a little bit more patient with his actions, which has given us some awful fights, like you said. But there's not a camp in the world that's going to bring back Johnny Walker's chin, man. Yeah. Considering that this is going to be taking place on the feet, I'm going to lean to the far cleaner striker in Hill to eventually find a KO here. Hill's timing is impeccable and will likely be the reason why he wins these early exchanges between the two. But he does have some big holes in his game as well. I think Hill is flat-footed. He's heavy on his lead leg, which kind of got him hurt in that OSP fight.
Ego let him go to the ground with Paul Craig.
Yeah, there's some big red flags for me on Hill's side. So I'm going to say that Hill does win by TKO, but that's mostly because I'm fading Johnny's chin. I think that this fight to end in KO is a pretty safe bet, and I think it's a common theme among this card. I know it's a sleeper card all the way through, but there are some fights that are primed for some highlight reel KOs. Yeah. So it could be another one of those cards. I'm going to go Hill here, but I'm not going to be laying that price tag on it.
Yeah, me neither. I found a line on FanDuel. The fight doesn't start round 4 at -190. I got 15 minutes. I think one of these guys go down. I don't think the Johnny Walker point fighting comes back out this time. I think he does come out with more of a higher pace, willing to engage, and I'm going to go with you that I think Jamahal Hill does find that finish over this time. So pick is going to be Jamahal Hill. That wraps up all of the fights for UFC Vegas 48. Appreciate you hanging out with us. If you haven't already, please do us a quick favor. Like the video, sub to the channel, help you boys out a lot. Keep an eye on Twitter this week. Our cards will be released there for the casual cap competition there. As always, though, going to go a little quick recap, give you guys the fights and stuff to pay attention for, man. So what's your fight of the night?
Fight of the night has to be Alhassan versus Buckley.
Shocker.
Yeah, that one's going to end in KO. Please tune in for that. There's a reason why it's opening up the prelims.
Yeah, I couldn't say it better myself, man. For me, I think Benitez and Onama is going to be a good one. Benitez is, like I said, tried 2 takedowns in 11 UFC fights, so I think he's going to give Onama the style of fight that's going to be fun. I think these guys are gonna have a nice striking battle. I potentially see one of them going down here. What about the fighter to watch for you?
Fighter to watch has to be Skelly, coming off of a big 2-year layoff. I think that he's primed to dominate here on Saturday. So I'm super excited to see him come back.
I like it, man. I think he's in a good spot too. His opponent's no spring chicken. He's on a layoff too. He's been submitted. Yeah, I like Skelly to grind that dude away. For me, I went against you and took the dog and Jim Miller because I thought he had some value there. But the fighter for me to watch is Nikolas Motta. He's looked really good on the regional scene, and Dana gave him a chance even though he did not get the finish on the Contender Series because he knows he likes what he sees. And he's got to win over an opponent with a similar style in Joe Selecki like Jim Miller has. So I think Nikolas Motta is primed to make a splash, and he's getting a veteran name right off the bat that could do him some good. What about an underdog for you?
I do not think the dogs are barking on this card, man.
Me neither, man.
Pretty tough for me to find one of these. Technically, Gloria Paula's a underdog, so I'm going to go with her. I think that she's probably going to find herself on top in some of these exchanges and will grind out a win. But I'm not betting it, so that tells you how confident I am.
I'm gonna stay with Jesse Strader kicking off the night at +230. I said there was some value potentially on Jim Miller if he gets it done in round 1. I'm going to go Jesse Strader. I think he's got a plus 230 price tag that is not necessarily warranted.
And it's going to stay on the feet, so he has a good chance.
And I'm not saying he's going to win, but hey, you might be able to cash a plus 230 right off the bat and free roll the rest of the night. What about a prop for you?
Prop has got to be Pearce inside the distance over Christian Rodriguez. You're getting it at plus money. You get it at plus 100, plus 110. And that's got to be the best bet on the card. Christian Rodriguez making his debut on short notice against a guy who's looked dominant in the UFC. So I'm all in on Pearce inside the distance.
Man, I honestly should have chose Alhassan as my underdog. My prop bet Alhassan round 1 plus 400. The guy's like 11-4 with 11 round 1 knockouts. He's knocked out Nico Price, Obama Haas. He's knocked out some legit guys before, and Buckley's been slept 3 times, before on his own. So, yeah, give me Alhassan round 1 at plus 400. I don't
hate that.
Best bet for you?
Best bet is gonna be Jessica Rose Clark. She should dominate Stephani Egger. I think she's got the exact style that would grind out Egger. Egger doesn't like getting punched in the face, so I'm big on JRC here.
Minus 190 is already on my betting card. I'm big on her as well. I think stylistically it's a great fight for her. Your prop bet, Pearce inside the distance. Pearce is my best bet, man. I don't think you can go wrong putting this guy on any of your parlays. I think he's primed to win. I think him inside the distance at plus money is stupid when he's finished 2 bigger opponents. So yeah, Pearce is a fucking good bet on Saturday, man. I appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Stay tuned on Saturday at UFC Vegas 48. Got some good fights, man. We'll see you guys next week.
Peace.